Welcome everyone. I'm very glad you could join us today. This is Paula Newcomb and I'm the Northeast Regional Coordinator from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I am at the Kendallville Public Library this afternoon and I'll be the host and question moderator for today's webinar, Unleash Your Inner Marketer. Thanks so much to Jenna Anderson for presenting today. Jenna is the Marketing Specialist at the Kendallville Public Library. I will now turn the mic over to Jenna.
Thank you, Paula. Before we get started, I want to make a special note here. If you look at this first slide that you're seeing, you can tell that the bottom doesn't quite have the entire title of the webinar. That's because I'm a marketing person and I like fonts. And I like some weird fonts sometimes. So throughout this presentation, Paula's computer that we're using does not have the same font as me. So throughout this presentation, you're going to see things that don't look quite right. All the information should be there, but it's just not going to look quite right. So what we're going to do is Paula and I have been chatting, and we can send out the PDF to everyone who's on today so you can actually see how it looks in some of the weird fonts that I used. Okay, so let's get started with the webinar. I'll tell you about what my job is. I think, a lot of you can probably guess what that is. But I am solely the marketer for the library. That's really all I do. Flyers, newsletters, news releases, email, social media, signage. I do the website. I create videos, both promotional and training videos. Anything that the public is going to see, and a lot of the things that the staff sees as well, go through me. So that's what I do. But I can tell you that I know that I'm not the most important marketer on staff. And that's because I'm the brand manager. So what I do, the materials that I create sets the tone and creates the library's brand. That's something that you see in our logo, our graphics, our displays around the building. Pay no attention to the fact that, we're using weird fonts on this. That's not a good brand to have, but that's okay. What the rest of the staff is and what you may be is a brand ambassador. So you guys are responsible for upholding that brand. And if you're in circulation, what you're doing, really, if you're anywhere out in the library, you're interacting with nearly every patron that walks in the doors. The children's and teen staff are working one-on-one with patrons, building relationships, whether it's someone's first time in the door or whether they're regulars who come in a couple times a week. I do interact with the staff. Primarily my interactions are through email or through social media or something like that, but it's not near as much, and especially not near as much face-to-face as everybody else on staff. So if you're not aware, marketing has some challenges. So we're going to talk about those for a minute. One thing that we do is, I don't know about you guys, but man, we offer so much here that it's hard for me to keep track of it all, let alone our staff and our patrons to keep track of everything. We, like a lot of you, have homebound service, but how do we keep that at the forefront of people's minds when there are so many other things? So things get lost in the shuffle. I don't remember that, we do Kroger Community Rewards until I get the quarterly email saying how much we've earned. It's tough to do because we do have so much stuff going on. It's really impossible, I think, to market everything to everyone at the same time. The other problem is, how do we get our information to the people who don't use the library? If they aren't coming in, they're not picking up your newsletter, they're not visiting your website, how are they going to get the message? And, it drives me nuts, but no matter how much marketing I do, and you do, and everyone does, we're still going to hear people say, well, I didn't know you did that. What's really frustrating sometimes is that they're library regulars. People like me can scream all that we offer from the rooftops. We can email out the information to people who request it, but they have to read it. We can send the news releases to the media, but they have to run it in the newspaper. We can post things on Facebook, but they have to get notifications to see everything we post or click over to scroll through our page to see what they missed. We can keep our website updated, keep our calendar current, but still they have to go there and look for it. So this webinar is going to address some of these issues and more, and we're going to talk now about how you can unleash your inner marketer. So one of the first things that I think it's really important to do, and here's kind of the wrap up. As you can see, request is on 2 lines, not usually, but it is today. The first thing I want to talk about is training. And I think that training staff is just as important as training patrons. And we do that in a variety of ways. I think I'm going to flip to the next slide here, but I don't think I'm going to be able to use it. We didn't test this, so I'm not going to do it, just in case. But let me just talk about some of the training videos that I use. When I'm doing training videos for staff, they're actually very simple. It's a lot like kind of what we're doing with the webinar now. I've just got a USB mic hooked up. We're recording with some screen recording software, and I'm kind of talking my way through it. So the staff videos that I do primarily are they're really just quick and easy to do, and anybody can actually do those. You know, when I first started, I purchased a mic for I think $15, and I think my screen recording software was maybe another $15. So I think that's a small price to pay for some, you know, effective training for the staff members. We post ours on Niche Academy. If you're not aware of what that is a service, it's a national service that offers videos to libraries. And they also allow you to create your own academies and upload to those academies. We have KPL Staff Academy, which is what we use for our staff training. That does require a login. We also have KPL Connect, which is our public academy. Now, the training videos that I do for patrons, those are a little bit more involved. They don't necessarily have to be more involved, but when I do it, it involves pre-recording my voice. It involves video editing, things like that. But there's no reason it has to be. You could do videos for patrons the same way you might do these, you know, quick videos for your staff as well. But we use Niche Academy to get our training videos out there, whether it's to our patrons and our staff. And if you're interested in seeing some of those, you can go to our website at kendallvillelibrary.org. There's a little tab over on the right side that kind of bounces around. I think it's blue. And you can click on that, and that will show you some of our KPL Connect videos that we have for patrons. The second thing I want to talk about with training staff is something that I call conversational marketing here. And we actually just did this a few weeks ago, had another one. I'd like to do it, you know, we've done this 2 or 3 times over the past several years. I'd like to do it maybe every 6 months, do it on a regular basis, because I think it's important for our patrons, or I'm sorry, our staff to really be able to engage patrons in this way. So what I do as part of our conversational marketing quizzes is what I call them. I write down a line that a patron might say in conversation. For instance, the first one is, I need to stock up on books. I'm having back surgery and will be laid up for 8 weeks. And so what the staff then does is they respond with everything that they can think of that they could offer that patron. So, of course, at the forefront of my mind's homebound delivery. We do that even on a temporary basis. You can extend the checkout. So if they're going to be out for 8 weeks and they have, you know, Evergreen, Indiana, we got 100 books you can check out. We can extend the deadline, the checkout deadline for those. They can use Overdrive. We can show them how to do that. They can renew by phone if they need to. And they can access their account online to do their own renewals and things like that and place holds. So that's a few of the options for that particular conversation. Another one might be, we have way too many family members. My daughter wants to invite everyone to our wedding shower and I don't have the room. I think this is probably one we get a lot. We really only have one answer for this, and that is that we have rooms that you can reserve specifically for parties. We like to tell them you do need to book pretty far in advance because they do get full, but that's pretty much the answer to that one. I'd really love to earn more Babe Store vouchers, but there are only so many doctor's appointments we can go to. Usually not all staff gets all of these, but you know what? If they get some of them, I'm happy. We have 3 ways to earn Babe vouchers. We have the MAPS workshops, we have preschool play, and we have 1,000 books before kindergarten. So you can get involved in all those different programs. Actually, you know what? I forgot one. Word up. Wow, I forgot one. I need to add that. Some of these are a lot of possible answers, and I don't expect every person to get every one, even myself apparently. Another one is, where do I get a list of all the board games you have? Website, we have them on our website. You can look in our catalog, search there, and then we have a sign right near the games that lists all of them that you can get at either one of our locations. And finally, I just got a Kindle and I'm not sure how to use it. There are lots of ways that people can find out how to do things like that, they can ask KPO, which is kind of a book a librarian service that we offer. We have e-reader classes from time to time, and we do offer those tutorials through KPL Connect. And I did just see a question about what a Babe Store voucher is. We have an organization that's actually right across the parking lot from us. That's called Life and Family Services. And the Babe Store, I believe, stands for Bed and Breeches, etc. So they have diapers, they have clothes, they have strollers, they have all sorts of things that you might need for a baby or a young child, and you can earn vouchers to buy things in that store. I don't think they take cash, but they have a whole bunch of things that you can do to earn those vouchers throughout the community, doctor's appointments, going to some library programs, watching some videos, things like that. So that's something that Life and Family Services does. And I will mention while we're talking about it here real quick, what I think is really cool is that our food pantry, our local food pantry, is going to go to a voucher system as well. So we have already started working with them in a partnership to create, some of our events and things like that will have vouchers available for the food pantry as well. So that's something that's hopefully going to be coming up this fall. Okay, moving on. Something that I really want to encourage you to do to help train your staff is talking points. It's really important to get everybody on the same page if you're going through a big change. One of the ones that we've created was for our move to a topic-driven collection. We got rid of Dewey. We went to everything being organized by topics in all of our departments. That wasn't an easy transition for anyone by any means. We had some staff members who were against it, some staff members who thought it was the greatest thing ever. We had a bunch in between. But what it's important to do is to get the staff on the same page. Whether or not they like the idea, if that's the direction we're going, they need to be on board with it. So what we do, and we did this recently as well for a local library near us, and I see some of you from Noble County Public Library on the webinar today, so hi guys. They just went fine free. So we are really close. We share a lot of patrons. So we wanted to make sure that when patrons came in with questions, our staff understood the information. So we create things like, here's the basics of what's happening. Please do talk about this. Please don't talk about this. And of course, if they have further questions or concerns, who are they going to go to ask those and get the information that they need? Okay, so back to this page. Speaking of asking for what you need, ask for what you need. Even if you don't have a specific marketing person like me on staff, someone on your staff is going to be in charge of your program planning, your databases, your services, that sort of thing. We here in Kendallville, we have open lines of communication with our staff, so every single person knows that they can come to me and make suggestions or request something. So I encourage you not to be afraid to do it to get what you need as well. And if you're the person in charge of these things, please make sure that you get the staff the information they need to properly promote whatever that may be. I know a lot of people sometimes they think it's more powerful if you are hoarding the information yourself, but it's really not. It's more powerful if you share that knowledge with others. So it'd be great to make sure that everyone has the information that they need. A couple examples of this is something that someone asked me for. This is our meeting room grid. We have quite a few meeting rooms, and we have a brochure that talks about all our meeting rooms that we hand out, which is fantastic. But when you have somebody on the phone, it's not always easy to get to the basic information you need and the questions that people are going to have. So what Circulation requested from me was basically a spreadsheet, like you see here, with the basic information. The room name, the capacity, what it costs if you're a profit organization, and what the deposit is if you're using it for a party, and if it can be used for a party in a lot of those cases. So that was something that was asked of me, and it's come in very handy, even for me. I keep one by my phone as well, in case somebody sends a call back to me, which happens sometimes, and I have that information right at my fingertips. Something else, I guess I don't have an example for this, is we have some flip books. I call them flip books. What they really are is pictures of we have one for our cake pans, we have another one for our Cortex kits. So if a patron comes in and wants to see what we have, they can flip through it. They have the barcodes with them. So if someone wants to put one of the particular cake pans on hold, circulation has it right there, and they can just scan the barcode and put it right on hold for them. So that's something that we keep at our circulation desks, so it's really easy for patrons to look at, for staff to grab and use real quick. It's just really handy, and that's something that was requested of me as well. Something else that I think is really important, and I kind of talked about this just a minute ago, is make sure that you're creating a culture of openness and sharing. Not every single person on the staff is going to be involved in some of those big decisions, but I think it's important to, when you're making a change, don't just say this is how it is and this is how it's going to be. But it's important, like, with the talking points, to explain why the change is necessary. And I hope that everybody feels comfortable taking questions and concerns to a supervisor. I think having that open communication is one of the most important things that you could do in the library. Something else that we have here, I don't know how many people have it, but if you don't, I would encourage you to get it. We have a language. It's something we use regularly. We don't, when we're talking in the public, and I know sometimes I slip when I'm talking to other staff members, we don't say program anymore. We say event or workshop or project. Those are kind of a little bit more value-added words, I guess. We like words like innovative and relevant. We encourage people to experience the library. As you read the newsletter website, any of the information that we have available, you'll see those things in some of the information that we put out. So if you don't have your own language, maybe start thinking in that way, because just using slightly different words may increase the value and interest in some of the activities that you have available. Something else that I think all staff should do is like or follow the library's social media sites. I know here we do a lot. That's where most of our information goes out on a day-by-day basis. If you're following those social media sites, you'll get an idea of what your library is posting, and as patrons see it and they ask you about it, you'll already be ahead of the game. So I think that's very important to do. Overall, you'll just be better prepared to know what's going on at the library and answer those patron questions. Something else that I think is really simple, but I don't think always gets done, is to read the newsletter. There's never a printed copy very far from any desk in my library. We have it online too. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no excuse not to read the newsletter. That is the one place where most all the information you need to know is going to be for that month. We have a 12-page newsletter we put out every month. It's packed with information, talks about things happening now, talks about things coming up next month. So for us, that's one of the biggest places that you can find a wealth of information really handy. Also, check your website frequently. I update the website on a weekly, if not daily basis. So while I'm not posting anything that's not already in our newsletter, usually it is a good resource for information. So a lot of what I've done during some of those conversational marketing quizzes that I talked about earlier is put things out that can only be found on our website. What did I do? Oh, I just did something the other day. I give out candy bars when I do the conversational marketing quizzes, so everybody who gets one gets a candy bar. And I had some left over from that, because Costco has those wonderful boxes of 36 that you can buy, and I didn't want to take the chance of eating them all myself. So I threw out a couple questions on our in-house communication system, and one of them was, tell me what the newsletter cover was from July 2014 or something like that. And I didn't tell anybody where it was. So we had two of our very competitive staff members who answered. The first said she went online and kept trying to look in the wrong place. So we have another staff member who apparently keeps every newsletter we've ever printed. And so she went through that desk and found the right one. And she got the right answer, which was great. The second staff member who tuned into that did get the right location that I was looking for. So luckily I had 2 candy bars left, so they each got to have one. But the website's really a good place, and I know that's something that a lot of staff members, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, but I really think that's something to keep in mind if there's ever a question. Pointing people back to the website is great. I know here we run out of e-reader guides a lot, and if I'm not here to reprint them, hey, you know what? They're all on our website. Just go there and grab them. I appreciate, personally, a picky proofreader. So, when you're reading the newsletter, when you're reading the website, when you're reading some of those things that I might put out, when you're reading a flyer, I ask people to let me know if they see something that's wrong. That's what I love. Do I want to have something out there wrong? No. But if there is something out there wrong, I want to know so that I can fix it. Sometimes there have been mistakes on our big outdoor sign, and someone's told me 3 weeks after the fact, and somebody else says, oh, well, I saw that there was a mistake there, but I figured you were taking care of it. Well, I can't take care of it if I don't know about it. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I like people who tell me what I'm doing wrong so that I can fix it. I try not to make a lot of mistakes, but in my line of work, the mistakes that I make are by far the most visible to anyone. So I love it when the staff steps in and says, hey, we got a problem here, and I can take care of it. So that's a lot to do, but I'm hoping that you're willing to do all this because you love it. I know that I'm not in this business to make money. I'm sure that you're not in this business just because we're making money. We're here because we love the job. We have a vested interest in our library's success, and your participation in marketing your library can only make it more successful. I'm going to grab a drink before we move on to the next section. I suppose I can interrupt here and take a break and see if there's anybody that has any questions about the getting what you need portion of the webinar. Excuse me. Looks like a couple of people are typing, so we'll just take a second here to wait and see if anybody's got some questions. We're going to talk about spreading the word next. Did we have any questions up further, Paula, that I missed? Okay. What were the 3 words you used to describe a program instead of using the word program? Event, workshop, class. Those are some of the ones we used. A lot of this came about because project. We use project a lot instead of like craft. We use project a lot. A lot of this came about because I watched another webinar, another presentation. I can't remember who it was, but a lot of you've probably seen it too. It was someone talking about Evian and Kroger water, or maybe it was a different brand of water, but it was Evian and some store brand of water. And what's really the difference between the two? Well, the difference is the way people talk about it. That's the big thing. So Evian can charge a few bucks a bottle because of the way they talk about it, whereas the store brand is a lot cheaper. And the big difference is that they use different ways to talk about it. So that's why we kind of started moving toward a different language. And Nancy, I know I say program a lot too when I'm talking to other staff members. I'm trying to get myself out of that. I do a great job when I'm putting it in our newsletter and our publications, but man, I do a terrible job of that when I'm talking to the staff. So I need to improve that about myself. Okay, I think we've got all the questions for now. You can keep sending them in as we're going on too, if you want to. So we're going to talk about spreading the word. So how do we take all the stuff that we found out and get it out there? How do you, as someone who's on the front lines, get the information out there? One of the biggest things that you can do, and I know I've said this before, let me switch here we go. See all those things? That's real easy, right? The first thing, one of the biggest things you can do really is get to know your patrons. If you know your patrons, you know their likes and you know their dislikes. You're going to know if there's an event coming up that they might be interested in that maybe they don't know about yet, or you saw a book on the new shelf by an author that's similar to something that they read. So you're able to engage them and talk it up a little bit. Help them to find things out about the library that they may not already know. Something else you can do is go above and beyond. I know that sometimes I have to think my way through this to actually do it. When a patron asks you for a book on container gardening, let's say, we'll just use that as an example. You could just point them in the direction. You know what they say, point with your feet, not your hands, but that's customer service. That's a customer service webinar, which we're not quite doing right now. What I would suggest you do is you go to the shelf with them, take them with you, talk about the gardening section. You know, in our case, we could talk about how we've reorganized everything into topics, so all of the gardening information is going to be in the same place. Talk about the program that we have coming up. There, I said program, darn it. I knew I was going to do it. Tell them about the event we have coming up. We had one in the spring that's painted garden markers. So that would be something to tie in with the gardening theme. You know, maybe you're not lucky enough to have something going on just at the time you bring it up, but hey, sometimes you will be. So that gives you a chance to cross-promote those services that's happening around your library. So if you know what's going on, if you're looking at the newsletter, looking at the website, making sure that you understand those sorts of things, then it's going to be really easy for you to do to cross-promote those services. Something else that I think is important is to show patrons how to do things. Don't do it for them. We actually do get a lot of use on our KPL Connect. We have a lot of our staff members that are pointing patrons in that direction, which is fantastic. I'm always excited by those numbers when I go to look at the statistics for that each month. For instance, at our adult customer service desk, we have a second monitor that faces the patrons, so they can actually see what our staff is doing if they're placing an item on hold for them or looking something up in a catalog or showing them how to use a database. So we're showing them instead of doing it for them, and in the process enabling them to be more comfortable doing things on their own. So that might get them a little bit more involved and a little bit more willing to do more and find out more about what we have. So I think that's an important step as well. And like I said, this is where those patron training videos can come in really handy, because when someone does something on their own and they can do it and feel comfortable, then they're more likely to do it more often. Something else that I think is important is to share with your patrons, but be careful that you don't share too much. This kind of goes back a little bit to those talking points that we talked about earlier. If you have an open exchange of information in your library, that's fantastic. You should feel comfortable having your questions and concerns addressed. But if your library is doing something that you don't agree with, do not, please do not share your concerns or complaints with the patrons. Whether you agree with it or not, it's your duty to be a positive force for the library. And if a patron is asking questions that you feel like you can only answer negatively, then please find somebody else to discuss it with them who can react positively. And you know, of course, I'm only saying this because I've had this experience. Don't seek out patrons just so you can complain to someone who will listen. I can't make that up. It's happened. Please don't do it. I'm begging you. Please go to your manager. Please go to someone that you can talk to in your organization about your feelings on the change or something like that to maybe help get a little bit more understanding of why a change is important for patrons. And along those same lines, I think it's really important to be transparent in everything that you do as a library. Our management, like I've said, our supervisors, our director are open to questions and complaints from our patrons and our staff, and they can always respond themselves or share with you proper responses to things. We tend here not to hide our trouble areas and flaws. Instead, we prefer to explain them. So, you know, last year it came out that, you know, obviously circulation's down. It's happening at a lot of places. It's not something that's new. But instead of trying to, you know, gloss over it or hide it, we actually created stories about it and what we thought the issue was, what we were doing to address it, and how we're making changes to increase those circulations. And so that's something we've done on a couple different occasions when we had an issue with the library. You know, our statistics weren't where we wanted them to be or something along those lines. And what was great about it is the last time that we had those statistics come in, you know, our circulation was still down a little bit, but it showed that we had curbed that. So the decline was a lot smaller than it had been the year before. So don't hide anything. I think that's important. Something else, I tend to work across the entire library. I work with basically every single person that's here. Not everybody gets the chance to do that. Adult services sometimes is their own little island. Children's services is their own little island. Circulation's its own place. But I really think it's important to understand and know what's going on in other departments. And that goes back to all those things we talked about, getting what you need. If the children's staff is well versed in what's offered for adults and vice versa, it's better to help our patrons. So I would encourage you to do the same, because you might be in one department, but a kid is going to come in with their parents to the children's department, let's say, and they're going to come in, they're going to read books and they're going to play. Maybe those parents would be interested in hearing more about what the adult side offers. And sometimes some of the adults are going to come, maybe with or without their kids. They're going to hit up the adult side. They're going to talk about Overdrive. But maybe they don't know that there's a children's section on Overdrive as well that they can access for their kids. Or Tumble Books even, that we have, that is a great e-reading service for children as well. So having the ability to cross-promote between departments is really effective too. Because there are some, I know in our experience, there are some parents who don't ever use the adult side of the library. They only come into the children's side because they've got kids with them. So if we can reach those parents and get them to understand what we have on the other side of the building for them too, that would be fantastic. And here's a little bit of customer service 101. Don't say, I don't know, please. Please. I feel strongly that anyone in the library should be able to answer most questions. But sometimes I know that details are going to slip through the cracks. Still, you don't need to say, I don't know, because at the very least, if you can't answer a specific question, I hope you know the person who can answer it, and you can point the patron in that direction, or you know where to get the answer. You know that this topic is on the website, so you can look it up for them right there. I shouldn't have to mention that, but I think that's really important, so I want to make sure we get that into this entire discussion about empowering staff. Something else that I think that we do a lot of already, and it's really important to reach the patrons that don't come into the library, is to get outside of our own walls and do outreach. Plan events through your community. Go to the fair, be seen. A couple of the things that we're doing, something that we've done is the painted rock movement. We have Rambling Rocks. And that's been huge for getting people to learn more about our library. It's something that the library has led. We've created a Facebook group, so people who are doing it, not all of them are library patrons. So it's gotten more people into the building, more people asking about what's going on. And frankly, having that Facebook group has given us another forum to share some of our information that pertains to rocks. We also we're just starting a community project that's spearheaded by the library, a community group, Chamber of Commerce. There's a whole bunch of groups involved in it. We're just one of them. But it's a fairy gnome and troll house thing that's going on through our community. And so organizations have these fairy doors on their building somewhere or nearby, and there's a QR code with them, and they are, you can scan the QR code and it takes you to the website and tells you the fairy or gnome or troll's story. So that's something that's really big throughout the community right now. We just kicked it off a few weeks ago, and that again is something that the library's pretty involved in that. But for the amount of work that we're doing, I think it's really going to bring a lot more people into the library that don't usually use it. Something I also think is important is to get involved with the community on your own time. I'm on a Chamber of Commerce board, first of all. I'm a member of a United Way board. It's a really great way to share information. I have been able to create so many partnerships. We were just talking at the chamber meeting. I think it was last Friday we had the meeting. They're going to do a taste of Kendallville. Well, we had a Instant Pot class that was really popular here a couple months ago, and we've had a lot of questions about air fryers too. So I know that we have a lot of new cookbooks that have come into the library. So what I said I'm going to do is, hey, I've got an air fryer. I've got an Instapot of my own. I will come as the library to the Taste of Kendallville, and I will make things, and I will talk about things, and I will make our cookbooks available for people to check out. And so that's definitely going to reach people who don't have who don't already have that connection with the library. But I wouldn't have that opportunity if I wasn't on that chamber committee or some of the partnerships with the United Way that I've done, because I wouldn't have that connection. And the last thing I want to talk about before we get to your questions is just like it says on the screen, you're always on. As much as we hate to admit it, we work in a public place. Patrons are constantly coming in and out. Some feel like they know us very well. Some feel like they know us too well. And the chances are you work in the community where you live. So chances are you're going to run into your patrons if you're at the grocery store, you're at the gas station. I know our director talks a lot about how sometimes it's so hard for her to go to Kroger. Her quick shopping trip turns into a long day because of all the questions and things that she gets. So I hope if you're asked questions at the grocery store, if someone stops you at Walmart, you're friendly, you answer them to the best of your ability, you direct them to where they can find the information if you don't know it. Even if they don't talk directly about the library, you're still a librarian. Now I realize a lot of us don't have our MLSs, but you know how the patron thinks we're all librarians, and I use air quotes when I say that. So your behavior, so the bottom line is your behavior in public, even though it may seem unfair, still does reflect on the library. So this kind of goes back to the whole thing I talked about is we're here because we love it. So I think the best thing to do in this situation is to grit our teeth if we have to and keep the smile on our face so that there's always positive feelings about the library no matter where we are. Okay, so I'm going to take a breath. That wraps up the information that I have. So do we have any questions coming in, Paula?
We just had some comments of other ideas. Go to a high school or maybe a farmer's market or maybe the mall, bookstore to have your booth.
Yeah.
Being out in the community.
Yeah. So high school events aren't something that we do a lot of right now. I think we're going to try to get into it more. And we just got a new middle school, so there's been some shifting around of classes and things. But we're really, really heavily involved in our elementary schools. We actually go in and teach classes throughout the day on some subjects. We kind of bring in kind of value-added experiments to a science class and things like that. Michael just asked about tips for marketing specifically to elderly patrons. We have a couple senior centers that have moved in the last couple years. We go there. We take some of the craft programs. There I go, say craft programs. We take some of the projects that we do in classes here at the library, and we take them to do them. So that's something that we've done a lot more of recently. So that's most of the way that we get the information to our elderly patrons. That is a difficult segment to reach because some of them need the homebound care, and well, you know, how do you get that information out there to them? We also do have a small library in some of the nursing homes as well that we refill on a regular basis. We have a staff member that goes and reads in the nursing homes too. So those are a few of the things that we do. Deb wants to know more about Rambling Rocks. Sure. You can go to Facebook and look up Rambling Rocks. That's our group. It's real easy to do. We basically encourage people to paint rocks. We have supplies here that we keep in our makerspace. We encourage them to paint them at home. We ask them to hide them and look for them. We have special activities here occasionally that they can come in and they can paint. We have promotions where we give away prizes if you find particular rocks. We just did that at Kid City, which is a big thing in our community that happens the first Saturday of every August. We did special Kid City rocks, and we hit them around the fairgrounds where it is that day. And we gave away prizes if you brought them to the Libraries of Noble County booth. We gave you a prize for finding one of those rocks. And yes, there are a lot of Facebook groups that do that. Some cities do it. So your city may already be doing it. Your town may already be doing it. There's a lot of those groups out there, and People love to do that sort of thing. It's fantastic. Look for some more questions here. Keep your questions coming if you have them. Julie asks, so some events are held outside the library building. Yeah. We do those activities at senior centers. We do the in-school classroom visits. We do things like I was talking about partnering with the chamber to participate in their Taste of Kendallville. Yes, all those things are done outside of the library walls. And we're getting to do that more and more because that is one of the only ways to really reach the people who aren't coming into the library. How do you encourage a negative staff member to promote more? It's hard. You know, I just did the Indiana State Library's Leadership Academy, which was amazing. So I encourage all of you to apply next year to go. Literally life-changing for me. And you know what she said is not everybody needs to work at the library. If you can't be positive, and this is harsh, I understand that. If you can't be positive about what you're doing even after you get questions answered and you're thinking about what's best for the patrons, maybe you need to get promoted to patron. So that's something to think about because it is hard to sometimes get them on board. I got to tell you, the person who last gave us trouble like that, who couldn't be positive about a change, doesn't work here anymore. It's not that this person was fired. It's just that she realized this maybe wasn't the best fit for her. And to me in marketing, the bottom line is you have to think about the patron. You have to think about what's best for them. Maybe you think Dewey's the greatest thing ever, but does everybody understand that? And I know there were arguments both ways. For us, we determined that it was best for our patrons to go a different route. And the patrons have responded in kind. And I know for a lot of our staff members, it's a lot easier for me, especially, to find things more quickly. So I think as long as you're doing things that are in the best interest of the patrons, and that's why you're making a change, it's easier to get people on board. But sometimes people might have to make a tough decision on whether they want to continue to work at a place like that. It may not be the best fit for everybody. And I know that's harsh, but it's true. Let's see. I know I saw a couple other questions came in. I'm going to scroll through here until I find a few more. We have a few more minutes, so we're good, I think. Do you have ideas or suggestions for libraries who are thinking about using Facebook Live? Yes, my first suggestion, and I actually talked about this. I have a video marketing for libraries session that I've done too, and I talk about that in there. My first suggestion would be don't do it too much. My husband works at a TV station, and every single morning before the morning newscast started, they would do a Facebook Live, and it's the same shot every day, the same thing they were saying, and I saw it every day because it was the time I woke up and looked at Facebook. And frankly, it got old, so I ended up unliking them. So my first thought would be don't do it too often. My second thought would be make it something interesting. We've done them recently. We had weekly challenges during our summer reading this year, and so we would do live prize drawings on Facebook sometimes. So make it count. Make it count. If you've got, let's say, a musical presenter coming in, a couple hours before, if they're there getting set up, maybe do a little bit Facebook Live with them to, they can talk about some of their music, maybe play a quick little tune, that sort of thing. So don't do it too much, and when you do, make it count. Those would be my big suggestions for that.
Is your libraries more about offering workshops versus circulation?
We see offering workshops as a help in circulation. So we don't see one as more important than the other, but we want to use them both to help each other, I guess, is the way that I think of it. We don't really have a hierarchy of what we want to do here. But what we're always trying to do is make sure that the people who are attending our events know that we have a collection of books that relate to the subject. So at every activity that we have, every event that we have, or workshop that we have, we bring down some of our books that are related to that. So we're always cross-promoting. We're always cross-promoting. And if people are only up there at circulation, we want the circulation staff to know what's going on, so if they see someone checking out a book, and let's say an Instant Pot cookbook, because that's in my mind, if they see someone checking out an Instant Pot cookbook, and we have a program coming up in the next couple weeks or in the next month, they can promote that to them as well. So we're always trying to get that cross promotion, because the more we can do in all of them, the better we are as a library as a whole. Okay. Thanks, guys. That was kind of off the cuff, but I think that's a good answer for that. It's really important for us to not have a hierarchy of what's, something being more important than the other. We try to make sure that everything is addressed, and we can promote and increase everything, really. Okay, are there any more questions before we sign off? Like I said earlier, we will send you the PDF as well, so you can see what crazy fonts I've used and what the PowerPoint presentation was supposed to look like. So you'll get that as well. I'm assuming that my contact information will be included on there. So if you do have any questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate your kind words.